Hey, what's up guys, it's Lord J here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make decks. Specifically, I'm going to be showing you how to make a beatdown deck. So I'm going to be going over 4 decks over this little series that I'm going to do. It's going to be beatdown, chip decks, which, stay tuned for that. That's probably going to be the best one, since I actually know how to do those. I actually based it off this, so just look at it and see. Siege and air, and somewhat of a variation of tower damage. Anyways, let's begin. So, for the first part of your deck, what you're going to need is a strong card. These are the cards you're probably going to need if you're going to be doing a starter. The reason I put the Sparky in here, by the way, is because just in case you want to have like a support behind these giant stuff, these giant cards, but I didn't really put them anywhere else in the other parts of the deck, so that's why I have it here. Because sometimes what you can do is you can just make a deck and you just have the Sparky who's doing damage. I wouldn't necessarily suggest that, but if that's really your only option for card levels, then, well, there's the option. So, I would choose one of these cards when you are doing, like, when you're making a deck with this stuff. So choose one of these cards first. This is your basis card that you're going to need. Alright, the next card that you're going to want to have in this deck, or these kinds of decks, is going to be like a cheap spell card, and I would suggest choosing between one of these. Now, be aware that if you choose the Rage spell or the Tornado, that your next spell card is going to have to be something that does damage. So you can't just choose 2 things that do no damage, or that would basically defeat the point of having a spell at all. So, just look at these cards, choose from that for your second card. There could be more explanation in a later video, but this is just making the deck. So for your second spell card, I would suggest choosing from one of these. The reason I left the log, the tornado, and the arrows in here is because if you choose something like the zap or the barb barrel, like if you chose the zap, you could also choose the log if you wanted to, or like also the arrows. But I wouldn't necessarily suggest having 2 like 4 elixir cards, so definitely don't do that. So if you already chose one of these in your deck, then I would suggest choosing between one of these 5. If you're doing a strong push type of deck, instead of just like, oh, I need to do damage to the tower because my push is probably going to fail, then choose these 2. But if you're going to be having like, okay, this is a push, it's going to work, or I'm pretty much basing it like off this push working, then I would choose these 2, or maybe you can choose the free spell. Anyways, let's continue. Alright, next for your 4th card, I believe, you're going to want to have something to cycle with, because you don't want to just have a bunch of 4 elixir cards or 5 or whatever. You want to have something to cycle with. So I would suggest choosing one of these cards. And also, I left the barb barrel in here just in case you didn't choose it before. And yes, it's okay if you have 3 spells. Only if it's the barb barrel though. I wouldn't suggest it if it's any other type of spell. Just because the barb barrel turns into a troop. So it becomes a spell at first and goes into a barb barrel, or just a barbarian. So choose between one of these cards. Normally I would suggest something cheap and cycly, but you can use it for more use, like the fire spirits to just destroy extra things, heal spirits to heal up your stuff, or you can just choose something like skeletons and maybe a spirit just to cycle with. Anyways, let's continue to our next card. So for your next card, what you're going to need is something that's going to be able to protect your strong troop, but from far enough away that it's not just like it's not just dying right next to the giant. So if they set a Mega Knight, your troop should be far enough away from the giant that it should be able to get hits off without dying. So any of these cards you can choose from. There's also the Magic Archer, or Electro Dragon, or Skeleton Dragons you can choose from. Bleh, can't speak. I just chose these ones because these were the ones that fit here and made the most sense. Anyways, let's continue. So, now for your next card, I would suggest using something like one of these cards. Something that's going to be able to tank hits, but also is going to be able to take out stuff. Plus, it needs to also be able to have the ability to be used in your push. And some of these cards are more effective when being used in a push, which are specifically these three, but the other ones work very well also. So just see these cards and choose one. Moving on. Alright, now for your 7th card. I think that in a giant, like a push deck, a beatdown deck, you should have a multiple troop card. Something that won't just die to one hit and has to be taken out with maybe a zap, or arrows, or a fireball. Something like that. So one of these cards is specifically what I was looking at. There are more cards you could use, like I looked at the Inferno Dragon. If you wanted to use the Inferno Dragon instead of something else, you just need something that can take care of their push. So probably not skeletons. I don't know why I put them in there. But something like that. You want to have something that can take out their push, but it also is multi-troop, so it won't just die in one hit. So if someone's got a P.E.K.K.A., you can set it to distract it. Something like that. Anyways, let's move on to our final card. Alright, and for your final card, you're probably looking at this and being like, wait a minute, isn't this like the same type of thing you told me to choose, like 2 cards ago? And that is correct. You usually want 2 of these types of cards. But you don't want to choose 2 of almost the exact same types. So, you wouldn't want to choose, like, something like a wizard and a musketeer. I mean, they are definitely good, but you might not want to choose both of them. I would suggest something like more costly on one, less costly on the other, or something like equal. But basically something like this. There are a few other cards I could put in, but only have 8 spots, so these are just the cards that I pulled up. So if there's any of these types of cards that you're like, oh hey, this is similar to this, like I could go down to, let's see, like the Hunter. I could go down to the Hunter and be like, oh hey, the Hunter is kind of like, he's kind of got the same range as the Ice Wizard. And you could say, okay, maybe that'll probably fit in the deck. Or you could go down again and be like, oh, the Baby Dragon. The Baby Dragon's kind of got, like, decent range and effects, kind of, as the Electro Dragon, minus the shock, but it costs less elixir. Just something like that. I don't have all the cards here, because can't fit them all. But I would assume you get the idea. So, now we put all those together, and it's going to look something like this. So just look at this deck, and look at the cards you have, and be like, oh, okay, the zap's kind of similar to the arrows, I'm going to take the zap instead. Or be like, oh, the fireball, I want something a little more costly, I think the rocket would be better. Something like that. Yeah, so just look at the deck, look at the cards I showed, and you can put a deck together yourself. Just try to follow the same basis that I was doing with the cards, and you'll end up with a good deck. And make sure you practice with it, or else you will not get good with it. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I hope this helps, and I will definitely be making more of these deck building videos in the future. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later.